Mehdi, who is a professor in Department of Pharmacology at PGIMR, Chandigarh, who will be doing our welcoming address today. Dr. Vikas, sir, are you there?
Yeah.
Yes, he's already there. A very good afternoon, sir. Welcome.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you. So we can start.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. As you can see that this is the 8th webinar by TSTI, and this is actually required because when we discussed earlier in DCJ office regarding accreditation of clinical trial site, who is going to accredit investigator ethics committee. I'm saying it long back, 10 years back, we wanted to give it to ICMR. Then that's how the process began. So I like to congratulate TSTI, Dr. Sushita, for starting this program. So as you can see that number of people who had registered, that exactly indicate that, interest for quality of product. Because when you look at 2008 to 2013, it had more than 10,000. So after that, it came down because of compensation issues. But as you can see that, number of people who are engaged in clinical trial, and today number of clinical trials we are. So the TSTI, under Department of Biotechnology, Ministry of Science and Tech, launched this program with Secretary Dr. Renu Swarup and Dr. Garg, who launched this program under this. And if you look at this, this is the first kind in the globe where GCP certification, professional certificate, program has been started, and people are certifying, and this is as per the standard of ISO also. So I think this is a good move, and as you can see that NMC also had now saying that all of them need to be accredited, means all the PGC can also be GCP certified along with GLP. So definitely, so we'll have a series of workshops, and if we look at that, how we can train the people, like you say, we have 850 medical colleges and the research organization. So definitely, this program is going to help. So I'll be brief, and I wish all the success for this program, and definitely we'll have a more output, and we'll have a skill manpower for India. So that is what I want to say. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. So without any further delay, now I invite Dr. Sucheta Banerjee Kurunkar, who is our principal scientist too here at THSTI. Ma'am, please give the audiences about an overview of GCP-PCS.
Good afternoon, namaskar to one and all. First of all, I would like to thank Professor Vikas Mehdi. Many people may not know that Professor Vikas Mehdi chairs the GCP revision, which CDSU has planned, and this is long awaited, Professor Vikas Mehdi ji, because in 2001 that we have studied, we have R1, R2, and now R3 coming. I think this GCP-PCS will make a long journey towards strengthening the GCP good clinical practice and the clinical trials here in India. So without further ado, I will start with a very small overview about what is GCP-PCS. All the personnel who are involved in the field of clinical research and trials, GCP is not alien to them. GCP is about good clinical research practice. It helps us to understand that the trials that we conduct, the research that we do, are benchmarked towards international ethical and scientific quality standard, which speaks about the design, how do you conduct, how do you record, how do you monitor, how do you report a clinical trial. The GCP, is GCP compliance necessary? If you visit the NDCT rules, that is New Drugs and Clinical Trials rules, released by Central Drug Standard Control Organization 2019, which is by the Regulatory Agency of India, they have made it mandatory that the ethics committee members must be trained in GCP, and they must, if they are not trained, they may be also disqualified to be the member of ethics committee in due course of time. So this, as mentioned by Professor Medhiji just now, definitely strengthens that to make India the clinical trial hub of the world, as we have been thinking for last several years. Strengthening the training or strengthening the clinical trial personnel involved is one of the ways to ensure that the people who are engaged in clinical trials and trained in GCP can be the game changers to make it best. So the story begins few years ago when we walked to Quality Council of India's National Accreditation Board for certification bodies and National Board of Quality Promotion at Quality Council of India, asking whether they have any system to certify our GCP system, our GCP training. They said that there exists no system, and we can embark upon an ISO international standard, which is ISO 17024, which is a personal certification, international ISO standard for personal certification, and there begins our journey of this. We have been very fortunate, as mentioned, that Dr. Renu Swarupji, who was our Secretary, Department of Biotechnology, dedicated this to the nation while Professor Kirk was the Executive Director. You can see today Devjani, Professor Devjani here, who will be speaking with you today about this, and you'll also hear from Sri Anil Johari, who was the CEO of NABCB, that is National Accreditation Board for Certification Bodies at Quality Council of India, where this journey began. When we asked that why others cannot do it, we were asked that why we cannot do it, and that's why this was a journey started by us. Necessarily, we never wanted to do it, but when we have taken this responsibility, it becomes something very, very we are accountable for this. It's a proud moment to tell that we are world's first, as mentioned, and there is no other system exists in the world which is earmarked or to international benchmarks. There are several such certification systems which are existing in the world. Some are regulated and some are voluntary. Regulated, as you know, the drugs by the Indian drug regulator CDSU, and insurance by IRDA, and telecom by TRA. Like that, there are a lot of voluntary schemes. So GCP-PCS forms under voluntary schemes, just like yoga certification. Today, on the eve of International Yoga Day, I congratulate all of you. I hope you all have done yoga at least today, if not all the year around. So yoga certification board also have yoga certification system, and this has been quite hugely popular, and out of country also many people have got job or got placements where they have been certified by the yoga certification board. There's also a traditional healer scheme, which is also a personal certification scheme. Similar to that is THSTI's GCP-PCS. Before doing all those things, we had done a in-depth SWOT analysis where we worked on our strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. Something in first in India or first in world is not so easy actually. And as you know that this has been earmarked with the standard ISO 17024 2012, and this is when we met last year, our present Drugs Controller General of India, Dr. Raghuvanshiji, and mentioned about that if the people who are engaged in clinical trial, the ethics committee members, the investigators, the clinical trial members at the site, the sponsors, the regulators, and then there can be definitely a strengthening of the system and having less non-compliance to regulatory as well as ethical requirements for conducting clinical trials. This scheme is based on skill. This scheme is skill-based. It is based on knowledge. This is based on competency, which is knowledge, skill, and attitude. And we will speak about this, how this testing is done in the subsequent today's discussion. This is one of the very key photograph to remember, that THSTI, which is Translation Health Science and Technology Institute, today is a part of Biotechnology Research and Innovation Council, forms under Department of Biotechnology. It's under Ministry of Science and Technology, have formed a steering committee which has ministries, members from various ministries which steers this, and Dr. Sri Anil Johari is the chairperson of that. There's a technical advisory committee which works on the technical aspects, the assessment committees, the review and decision panel, and an appellate authority. So it's a very strong system where this is based, the GCP-PCS is based. Now there are two areas which are very interesting. If any one of you is interested in becoming GCP-PCS and you feel that you are trained, you will just have to go to the personal certification bodies. At present, we have NICU, that is Northeastern Christian University, which conducts PRCB, which is a PRCB already for your traditional healer scheme, and they will be the ones who will be taking your GCP professional certification scheme, and thereby you will be getting certificates from there once you complete the competency assessment as per the ISO 17024 requirements. And suppose somebody feels that they aren't GCP trained or they're not very confident about it, there are training institutions which we are working with. There can be many other GCP training centers where you can be trained in GCP and give the exams. Also, we are working with various new training institutions or old training institutions where they can gear up and train people to qualify for GCP-PCS certifications. NABCB, Quality Council of India, our association with them makes it international equivalent. As you can see, that National Accreditation Board of Certification Bodies is a part of Quality Council of India. NABCB is a signatory of International Accreditations Forum, and they have a multilateral recognition arrangement with the International Accreditation Forum for the standard ISO 17024. That means the GCP-PCS certificate that you get in India is internationally equivalent because of this traceability and because of this association. This international equivalence is this photograph or this pictorial representation helps you to understand that the GCP-PCS is based on ICH E6R2. It will continuously improve and upgrade as and when the standards upgrade. As I mentioned about the strong governance structure, the website, as you can see, has all the details mentioned, and you can always feel free to write to us. This is the email address mentioned. Dr. Sonia Moore is the program officer who is coordinating all the webinars, and she'll be very happy to connect with you to answer your questions, help you get the process, help you to pursue the GCP-PCS certifications. This is Northeast Christian University, who is our PRCB, the first PRCB. This is the National Institute of Health and Family Welfare at Delhi, where we are discussing with that. You can see close to around 3,000 people have registered for this course or this sensitization program. This is not a GCP-PCS training. This is a sensitization or an awareness program about the GCP-PCS, which is Good Clinical Practice Professional Certification Scheme program. And once you are sensitized, you may decide to take the certification. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to end by saying, which is very close to my heart, that if you have a choice, then always choose the best. But if you don't have a choice, then please do the best. Thank you so much for your patient listening. Namaskar and Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, ma'am. You are a bit early today, and Dr. Sanish will be joining at 3 only. So I would request Dr. Devjani to kindly please take a session on, like, before time on certification process for GCP professionals.
Did Devjani join? I'm so sorry, I have been fast. Was I very fast?
Yes, ma'am, you were fast today, but Dr. Devjani just joined. I think there's some technical issue. I think I should call her. Just give me a minute. Give me a minute.
So by the time I'll be very happy to take questions if you have any questions. Please feel free to put the questions in the chat box, or you can unmute and also ask the question. So, but since you're not asking a question, let me tell you the genesis about it. Is that when somebody tells that we are GCP-PCS we are GCP trained, that training can be for 1 year, that can be for 1 day, it can be half a day, it can be 2 days, it can be while working. You learn through through different ways like engaging or learning while working. So it is very difficult for anybody to understand that is there any uniformity in GCP-PCS training. So there is a system which my colleague Dr. Sanish Davis will speak, where we drafted a minimum standard of competence. This minimum standard of competence passed through the system of quite a grinding exercises in the technical committee to understand what should be the minimum standard of competence in various areas. And we have also included clinical data management as one of those areas. And once somebody knows all the paths, and, can be the benchmark to begin with. So the present one of GCP-PCS can be named as basic. So once we work on it, it can go further. There is no association of National Medical Commission with that. I understand that you are having this query because National Medical Commission has spoken about having GCP as one of the mandatory requirements for the PGs in the medical colleges and various research institutes. So, Dr. Pathak, because we are involved in GCP-PCS as a scheme owner, it becomes difficult for us to train the people for GCP, whether it is private or medical colleges, because we definitely will have a conflict of interest for that. Plus, we are thinking also that there will be various training institutions which will be training. But if you are interested in knowing more about that how you can gear up, we can definitely help you to become a training institutions where we can provide you with all kinds of support, how to train people for GCP-PCS, and we can also help you in getting resource support as well as the curriculum that has been devised. The curriculum is in the website also, but that can help you. So there are various ways where if you have any queries, have any interest, feel free to write to us. So regarding the validity of the certificate and all, I think when Professor Devjani speaks, you will be able to hear from her. She has been also involved in earlier traditional healer scheme and yoga certification scheme. You can also hear from Joriji, who was steering various such voluntary schemes when he was at NABCB and continues to do so. Okay, so how does the GCP-PCS training modules tailored for people with non-clinical background? Very unique and interesting question. If you know that many of the ethics committee members who are there are many of them are having non-clinical background. They can be social scientists, they can be legal person, they can be lay person. So these people also must be GCP trained, as we know, and as per statutory requirement for NDCT rules. So GCP training will help them to gear up to reach that level. Of course, there'll be difference because they will not have the technical knowledge or the clinical knowledge, but that is not required for GCP-PCS. So there are 6 areas which Dr. Sanish Davies will speak about today, where he will address those key areas or key components of minimum standard of competence. The fee structure. There's a fee structure if you want to be accredited or certified by GCP-PCS. Yes, the fee structure and details are either provided in the website, or please feel free to write to us at gcppcs.cdsa@thsti.res.in. This details is already given in the website. Otherwise, you can just go to Google and put GCP-PCS. It brings us to our web page. You can always write, and you can expect the answers as soon as possible from our end. There is no fee for joining as a training institute. I am not able to understand any fee to join as a training institute. See, if you have your own training institute, we have no problem about it. You can have your training institute. But if you want your training institute to be teaching for people to qualify for GCP-PCS, then it comes under the certifications or under GCP-PCS. For that, you have to write. And there is a fee structure for that. It's not very high. Being a government organization, we are also not for profit, so it are kept as a nominal fees. Thank you so much, Dr. Sheila. If you're a GCP trained professional and you want to have this GCP-PCS certification, it is very new. So many people think that this is a training. It is not a training, it is a certification. So I will request you to directly approach our PRCV. Dr. Shalom is the point of contact, and at THSTI, Dr. Sonia is the point of contact. She will help us, both of them will help us to facilitate to take up the GCP PCS certification, competency assessment. So, Dr. Atul Vashishji, there is presently no provisions for, specialization in GCP-PCS. As I mentioned earlier, that this is first in the world and it is gaining ground. We have been following all what have been done in US, Europe, and Japan and other places. This is something which is first in India. We call it made in India for the world. So it is gaining ground. Whatever we have present is basic. Once the basic works out and we are there globally, like we have been talking to Nepal, we have been talking to European commissions, we will also find space to specialize it. I'm not very sure what we will specialize in dates to come, but definitely that is in our pipeline. Yes, Ankit Desai, this is internationally recognized. As I mentioned that due to our connecting or linking with the NABCB, that is National Accreditation Board for Certification Bodies, which is under Quality Council of India, which has a MLA that is that I mentioned in my sheet with International Accreditation Forum. Any GCP PCS certification is internationally recognized. Dr. Amit Kumar Mittal, I am not able to understand your question. There can be various other agencies which can come for GCP-PCS certifications. There is no problem for that. They can go ahead and do that because we have worked on the MSc minimum standard of competence. We had done all the bench work at the beginning. We happen to be the first one to do so, but that doesn't stop us from some other organization taking it up because the world is very large and only one organization may not be sufficient to do that. Thank you so much, Dr. Atul. Yes, this is a voluntary scheme and anyone can take up and anyone can also start. Anybody would like to switch on their video, audio and ask a question, please feel free to do that. This is a YouTube live, so we haven't been able to engage with all the close to 500 people who have registered for this. They're on YouTube live. So if from YouTube live also, if you have any questions, please let us know. We'll just visit our YouTube live to take your questions.
Ma'am, there is one more new question that certification needed for postgraduate examination as per NMC norms.
So that is not certification. I believe that is a GCP training training certificate. Please do not get confused with GCP training certificate and GCP PCS certification scheme. GCP training certificate can be given by anybody, but GCP certification scheme is internationally valid because it follows an international benchmark based on ISO 17024 for 2012 standard. So there's a difference between both of that. I request you not to get confused. Many people who have also got certificate for attendance at GCP-PCS. I find them during NABH assessment and WHO Sitkar survey. I find them that they show that as a GCP training. Please understand that this is not a GCP training. This is just a sensitization webinar to make you all aware that this is first in the world, which has been done by India and is related to clinical trials strengthening in India. And we will be very happy to have all the people participate to make this stronger first for India and then for the world. I think Debjani has not been successful in joining. So is it possible if Sanish can start? I cannot see Sanish either.
Ma'am, he'll be joining at 3 only sharp
Okay.
because he's already in a meeting, and
Okay.
Devjani is finding some technical issue. We are trying to resolve that. IT person would be calling her. I just apologize to the audience for the 5 minutes delay. And meanwhile, you can ask the questions. We can just make it an interactive session with asking the questions. If somebody is interested to, open his or her video and ask the question in person, we can do that also. Shiv Pujan, let me unmute you. Just a minute.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Shiv Pujan ji. Yes. We can hear you.
Yeah, actually, I just want to know if there is what kind of rule is also available for cosmetic clinical trial or like homeopathic drug clinical trial or Ayurvedic medicine clinical trial. This kind of things is available in this course also, or this kind of certification is also available for doing that trial.
So presently the GCP that we have follows the international ICH GCP. It also includes for India specific, we can have the CDSU's GCP guidelines, but we haven't considered the earlier, the Ayush ministry, especially the homeopathy has written to us to include them. We are considering all other alternative medicines like Ayush or homeopathy as well as, but we haven't considered it now. It will be a good idea if from the ministry we get any interest. We'll be happy to rework our MSc, that is minimum standard of competence towards this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shiv Pujan. Now I would like to unmute Dr. C. Sheila Shashikumar. Yeah, we can hear you. Very good afternoon, Dr. C. Sheila.
Good afternoon,
Please.
Sonia, and good afternoon, Dr. Sujeta. I'm
Please
always
feel
interested to
free.
hear Sujeta's speech anywhere. Now, my question is, our ethical committee, I'm working as Director Clinical Research in our Dr. R.K. Diabetic Foot and Podiatry Institute in Chennai. We have an ethical committee that is registered under CDSCO. Now, is this a mandatory, or is it mandatory for the ethical committee members to undergo this GCPCS?
No, it is voluntary. It is just like NABH accreditation for your ethics committee. It is just like WHO SITCAR for CAP, as certifications or accreditation for you. So we always say quality is not mandatory. Quality is always voluntary. Like everybody goes to school, but only 1 or 2 people get gold medal, right? Can gold medal be made mandatory? No, it can't be. Taking the exam. Yeah.
That's right. But every year we tell them to get trained, updated in the regulations in GCP. So I thought, is it mandatory so that we can ask them to do it? So
no, it is not mandatory. That's why we say that GCP-PCS is a cut apart, or it makes you a different it puts you in a different group where you are certified also.
Can we get recognized as a training institute?
Of course, yes. You will be better position if you have a good ethics committee and you're also providing GCP training. You can be a very good training institute in India, and you can also do online for international groups once you gain confidence in this. Of course, yes. Sonia is the go-to person. You can just write to her.
Please write to me regarding the same. I would share my email in the message box. Just a minute.
Okay.
And please write an email to me saying that you are interested to become a TI. I'll share you the formalities and our other links and all, everything related to becoming a TI. I'll share it there.
Thank you, Sonia. Thank you, Dr. Sujeta. Thanks a lot.
Yes, ma'am. I've written my email. I've already written.
Yeah.
It is there. Yeah.
Thank you. It's there.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So there are a few questions in the chat box. By the time Sanish
Yeah.
joins, it's 3. I'll take it. What is individual eligibility criteria? We have not put any criteria as such now. Like ethics committee members may be, legal person, can be a lay person, can also be social scientist, can be a clinician, can be a non-clinician. So anybody who is working in the field of clinical research might be the ones who would aspire for GCP-PCS, so they can go for it. Private universities coordinating with CDSU. CDSU is a regulatory agency. Please do not confuse with CDSA. CDSA is my organization, which is a part of THSTI. We can't collaborate for training and certification, but we can definitely be of any help when you aspire to become a GCP-PCS training institute. Just now, like Dr. Sila mentioned, part of that. It doesn't matter if you're a government institute or private institutes, everybody can aspire and become.
Today morning, I received an inquiry that one student was there. She was doing her BSc. She was interested to know whether she can attend the webinar. So I said to her that I shared us, and I said that if you feel it is of your use, you can definitely join and register for it. Some of the colleges, they are offering BSc clinical research also. They are doing some integrated programs like that. So yeah, and we are welcoming and like professionals who are already into GCP, like clinical trial conducts and everything. So which includes all the professionals like medical professionals, medical writers also, CRAs, CROs, and CRCs. Any, from starting from the top to bottom in the hierarchy, they all are our target organ or like audiences for the GCP PCS.
Any more questions? I think we can reduce the time for asking questions post sessions. Of course, you will have post sessions questions when you hear from both Dr. Sanish and Professor Devjani. But feel free to ask questions. I think if you have any interest of getting a certification, the go-to person is Northeastern Christian University, that is NICU, who holds online certification exams or competency-based exams for GCP-PCS. And if you are interested to become a training institute or you want to become a PRCB like a NICU, both fields are open as present. An international organization, TUV, have shown interest in becoming one of our PRCBs, that is personal certification bodies, that will help us to also have certifications across the globe. We are also talking with many other certification agencies across the globe so that they can also participate in this. Yes, there are many institutes which provide MSc as well as PG diploma. THSTI themselves run a course which is MSc in clinical research, specialization in clinical trials. Yes, ideally they should follow minimum standard of competence, as well as we also have PhD students in THSTI who are working on clinical trials. There is no offline induction program, Dr. Bulu, but if you are from a medical college or a research institute, it's a good idea to have sensitization programs and hands-on workshops on good clinical practice annually, because the things keep on changing, which also should include regulatory as well as ethical considerations.
Trauma is also there. Trauma is also there.
Okay.
So what are the career opportunities for UG and PG students in biotechnology? We have interest in clinical research and to do this certification.
Dr. Atul, I am not very sure about this. Of course.
Actually, these are two questions. These are two separate questions. I feel so.
Yeah. So career opportunities should not be, might be many, but we do not know. We are not quite equipped to answer these questions. If you are trained, then you will not have depth of jobs. Initially, in this field, people would like to have people who are experienced because you handle human beings as participants. And that's why knowledge of good clinical practice helps you to be more equipped to handle them. We have a lot of MSc clinical research students who have their UG in biotechnology, and they have come through All India entrance to do the master's course in clinical research, specialization in clinical trials in THSTI. So we find that they will have a lot of opportunity when they have complete their course based on their immersion program and working with various clinical trials during their tenure of the course. I cannot find Sanish and Devjani both, who were my colleagues to speak today.
Sucheta, I've joined through my phone. That's
Thank
it, because
God.
my laptop was giving some problems.
Okay,
Just now I joined through phone.
Okay, so I think Sonia can share the screen and
I will
and
share
you can
it.
speak. Yeah.
Yeah.
No problem.
I can see also Sanish joining. It will be a good idea to take Sanish first. Dr. Devjani, if you can hold and see by the time you can have
because
a
his
reboot
session
of
is
the laptop.
okay.
That will
No
be a better
problem.
idea.
Yeah, mine was at 3:30.
Yeah,
So
you
I
will
was
get
at 3:30.
30 minutes.
Okay.
No problem, no problem. Dr. Sanish, are you there?
So Sonia, is it possible for you to pick up the questions from the YouTube live, because only 100 max 100 participants can take up these questions? I'm sorry, I could not address the YouTube questions. Maybe during the thing you can put it in the YouTube that we will address those questions during the Q&A sessions.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'll do that.
If Sanish has not joined, let's start with Devjani then.
My apologies.
There he is. Okay.
He's there. He's there.
Let me share my screen.
Yes, sir. Please share. Please share.
Hi, Sanish. You can start speaking by the time, just to save time and do it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
No.
Hi, thank you so much for joining.
Yeah. So my apologies again. Some technical issue with Zoom today. What I will be covering is on the minimum standards of competence, which is a must requirement for the GCP-PCS process. So I have a short presentation and obviously can take questions at the end of it. So this is the MSc is attributed to CDSA THSTI, and obviously it is something which is being developed by CDSA THSTI for the GCP-PCS. We have the version 1 which came out in 2022, and following public comments as well as feedback, we actually revised the MSc document, and we have a version 1.1, which is the one that we are actually using for the GCP-PCS program. So what is the requirement or the basis for GCP-PCS, the MSc document? We all, and this must have been covered eloquently by Sucheta and others. We all know that the DNC Act, or the Drugs and Cosmetic Act, has endorsed the adoption of GCP guidelines for streamlining studies in India. It's also adopted by the International Standardized Organization for Standardization, what we know as the ISO 14155 2011. And there is currently the felt need or the unmet need that if you are in the field of clinical research, whether you are doing clinical trials, or whether you are an ethics committee member, whether you are a regulator, whether you are somebody else, there is no standard as to what a professional in this field has to be done for training that person. Or you could say saying that this person is adequately trained to actually discharge the duties within clinical research as per the ICH GCP requirement. So in order for us to actually have a standard as to what we define as a professional,
so that finally that person can be trained, or a person who's already trained can be certified and follow that requirement.
Hi, Sanish. I'm so sorry for interrupting you. Your sound is coming with little bit of echo. Is it that because of the room or because of the, two devices are close to each other? Sometimes the mobile and the laptops are closed. Bye. I'm so sorry for interrupting you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Let me know if I'm still echoing.
You're still echoing, but I think it is bearable.
Yeah, let's see if it is improves, but I really don't have any other option right now. Okay, so from the perspective of competence in clinical research, this can be actually be assessed from the skills, knowledge, and the application part. And the competencies are also observable in the sense that when you have something which can be observed, there is also a possibility that the thing can also be measured, and also somebody can assess whether that person has learned that thing and also is able to imbibe that thing. So currently we have no generally agreed upon set number of core competencies for somebody who is actually trained in GCP. And hence the scheme was designed to evaluate and self-certify in a self-directed and practical learning-based approach rather than through a supervised training. So anybody can actually, you could say, self-learn, self-train, and also certify themselves through this pathway. So the scheme will also promote, maintain, and develop the competencies. So professionalism, knowledge, skill sets, and other things which are required for the GCP professional. And it also encourages applicants to plan, record, and reflect on the professional training requirements that are there. And the scheme owners have, you could say, developed this standard of competence or the minimum standard of competence. And anyone who actually passes through this competence process or this certification process can actually carry the tag called as Certified GCP Professional at a basic level. Now, if we jump into the competencies as such, there are 6 areas or domains, as we say, where competency can be assessed for somebody who is trained in clinical research or GCP. One is the protocol-related domain. Second is the domain of the investigational product development and relation. So different organizations use different terminologies. So it is investigational, medicinal product if you are talking from the European perspective, investigational drug for other regions, etc. But investigational product development and relations are all the details with regards to how the investigational drug is developed and then, of course, the regulations surrounding. The third is probably the heart of GCP, which is the ethical consideration for patient safety and well-being. Fourth is on the clinical study operations, which deal with a lot of project management and other details which need to be known for somebody who's in GCP. Fifth is what happens at the site. So things like how do you actually develop a budget? How do you actually go through the contracting? What are the essential languages? Things like informed consent process, anything which is related to what happens at the site for understanding GCP. And while not everyone would be master of data management, biostatistics, stats programming, and all the other things which are part of the study, anyone who is GCP trained should have a minimum understanding of what data management and biostatistics or informatics is all about. So now going to each of these core competencies, the first one is protocol. So anyone who's trained in GCP should maybe not know from the perspective of a medical professional or somebody who is actually doing this day in and day out, but at least should know that the protocol has a requirement, there's a rationale, objectives should be there, and from those objectives flow the endpoints and the outcomes, and ultimately why is the study being done? So what we call as the clinically important question that the study is trying to answer. And then, of course, what are the key concepts of the protocol? Like, what do you mean by statistical part of the protocol? Like, what does it entail? Sample size, what are the variables that will be assessed, what is the primary endpoint that will be evaluated. A little bit about epidemiology, which is like the prevalence, incidence of the condition, and a bit of operational, what happens during each of the visits, etc. A person who is also expected to have some brief idea about pathophysiology, pharmacology, toxicology, etc., related to the drug, etc., but not in great detail. The domain of investigational product development encompasses how drugs, devices, and biologicals are developed and related. So, right from the time that the drug is, you could say, discovered, then further development of product, you could say product development happens, formulation development happens, and then the drug becomes the formed element or the form in the form that ultimately is used for clinical trial. And from the time it gets, you could say, shipped to the site where the study is happening, collection of the, you could say, drug, usage in the patients, then finally the retention of the drug as well as the destruction of the drug after the study is over. So it also encompasses all the regulatory requirement for drug storage, what humidity, what temperature it should be there, etc., etc. The third domain is on the ethical aspects of clinical trials. So this is pretty much standard across GCP, whether you do ICH GCP, Indian GCP, any GCP, you have to know about patient safety and well-being. Important things about what do we mean by informed consent process, what is vulnerable population. In India specifically, I think you need to have audio, video recording of the informed consent. So what are the elements? When does it apply? So all those, you could say, guidances for, you could say, ethics. Clinical study.
Hello, sir. Sir, there's a voice echo. People are complaining in the comment box.
Okay.
I think we can join again if we can.
Yeah, hang on a second.
Because a lot of people are writing in the comment box.
Just give me a second.
No, it is still echoing because this is the technical part which people want to know. A lot of people are still writing.
So, Dr. Sanish, if you
We are
can
trying to
can you use your laptop device for speaking instead of the earphone or some Bluetooth device? Is that maybe the cause of that? No, I'm not sure.
I'm switching to the Bluetooth device because I've been using the laptop sound.
So maybe it is picking up from both. It might be picking up from laptop as well as Bluetooth. If you can stop Bluetooth and only use laptop.
Yeah, let me see
if that works, yeah. This is just a guess.
Okay, can you let me know if I'm audible?
Audible certainly, but echo is same. The intensity also remains the same.
Hello.
Yes.
Is it still going?
Still echoing. Are you having any device nearby to that? Have you logged in from two devices by mistake?
No, I'm not logged into two devices. But can you hear me okay now, or is it?
Now is better. Now suddenly it is better.
Okay,
Anybody couldn't agree with me?
Yeah,
it is much better, sir.
Okay.
We can start. We can start. Yeah, we can start.
Okay, so maybe in the interest of time, I'll continue from where we are, and if there are questions, happy to take that. So we were talking about the fourth competence, which is on clinical study operations. So this domain or this competency actually describes the role of the investigator, the supporting team at the site. It also, you could say, talks a lot more about adverse events, serious adverse events, you could say causality assessment and other things. Also, more details about the project management aspect of the clinical trial. So what does, if you are the sponsor, what do you do from a study perspective? How do you actually manage the project? How do you ensure that monitoring of the study happens? The role of auditing of the study and any post-marketing related activity that is there. Now, from here, we go to the next domain, which is on the site and the study-related management. So everything related to what happens at the site, whether it is human resources, the investigators and others, the infrastructure that is needed to do the study, even if it is a BA/BE study, the infrastructure that is needed, what finances are required for doing the study, etc. So all these come under the competency which is called as the site management. It also involves, of course, the contracting and the legal and other administrative actions that are required. And like I said in the previous couple of slides, not everyone might be a master of data management, biostatistics, statistical programming, etc. But some basic rudimentary understanding needs to be there, including what is the role of a biostatistician in the study, how does the data flow through the trial, how do you acquire the data, how do you analyze the data, how do you clean the data, and finally, how do you come out with the, you could say, the results of the study or the tables, listings, etc. Key to this competency is also the understanding of data quality and the systems and processes that are put in to ensure data quality. Now, when we looked at each of these competency domains, we also realized that not everyone in the clinical research ecosystem or the enterprise needs to have high level of, you could say, advanced level of knowledge in each of these 6 domains. So we have a, you could say, matrix where we actually looked at what are the roles and domains. Like, for example, an investigator should have advanced level of knowledge for maybe the protocol, but may not require the same level for maybe data management or others, or maybe even for site management, etc. Similarly, a clinical research associate at the site or a clinical research coordinator at the site may not need to have high level of knowledge about the protocol, the investigational product, as well as maybe in some format of the ethics, etc. But they need to have good level of knowledge of how the study is done, etc. So if we broke down each of the competency also into what is called as the sub-competencies, because you ultimately need to actually assess the sub-competencies within each of the competencies. So in traditional learning as well as assessment of the learning, they actually say that any competency can be assessed by effective action, which means understanding, knowledge, all that stuff. Then the cognitive actions, which is like, can you list all the related activities that needs to be done for a particular activity? How do you evaluate whether what you have done is correct, etc. So that's called as the cognitive action. And the last one is the psychomotor action, which is the actual work that is done. So for example, you know, say what should be done for an informed consent process, but the psychomotor action is how do you actually do the informed consent process activity? Like, for example, when do you give the patient information sheet? Then when do you tell the patient to sign? When do you as an investigator sign? What is an impartial witness? Where does the person sign, etc. So these are the different ways in which you actually interpret the understanding of that sub-competency that is it. Now, this slide actually gives an example of how the assessment happens. Like, for example, if you're looking at the domain of protocol, somebody at a basic level should be able to recognize what is the need for doing the study, right? So that should be there. What comes there? What is an endpoint? Those kind of things. They should be able to explain, if asked, what are some of the principles of, you could say, doing the study. Say, for example, if you're doing a protocol or running a study in India, what should be the regulations that you should be taking care of? Similarly, if you are looking at the domain of say, you could say clinical project management, right? That's the fourth domain. How do you differentiate between AE and serious adverse event, right? So that is the recognition part. The recognition part is important, but also what you, if you are a CRA at the site, you have to actually report the serious adverse event with the help of the investigator. So that is the action that has to be done. So these kind of like give a good sense to the person who's actually getting trained in GCP or who's appearing for the certification, that this is how the assessment will happen for the particular certification process. So we have actually looked at all these reference documents like the Indian GCP, ICGCP, NDCT rules, the National Ethical Guidelines for Biomedical Research of 2017 by the ICMR, and of course also model this on the JTF framework that was developed by the Harvard Research Group. So with that, thank you once again for your patient listening, and my apologies for all the technical challenges that has happened today. And happy to stay back for questions if you have any.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So the Q&A, most of the questions we have already took, and the Q&A will start at 4. So I think we should start with the Devjani ma'am session presently, because we
Sonia, if Dr. Sanish cannot stay back, it will be a good idea to take the MSc questions, minimum standard of competence questions now only.
We can.
Yeah.
So there's one question already there. Is GCP
It is voluntary, yeah.
Yeah. So if anyone has any questions regarding MSc, minimum standard of competence, you can ask Dr. Sanish. He's here only.
Yeah, so Dr. Vashish's question is actually, and Dr. Jody has already replied. So currently it is voluntary, right? I mean, that's the way that everything starts. You can't kind of like come with a very draconian law which says that this is implementable from yesterday. But over a period of time, I think when the critical mass happens, I think even the government will, whether it's a CDSE or ICMR, move towards making this a requirement. Because if you have only half the population being trained and certified and the other half is not actually doing that, that doesn't make sense.
Yes. So any other questions? There was one more question for MSc. Just a minute. Dr. Amit wrote something about MSc. So yeah, he was asking that there are quite a few institutes in India providing MSc and PG diploma in clinical research.
Yeah.
You feel they should follow a common minimum standard?
Yeah. So I don't know, scheme owner, do you want to take that question, Dr. Sucheta or?
Yeah. I actually addressed this question telling that everybody should aspire to do that. Like we also have a MSc program running here where we are also trying our best to ensure that when students are trained in GCP, they also aspire to become GCP-PCS certified, increasing their employability and having better adherence to the standards. But everybody should aspire to, but we can't force, as I rightly said by Dr. Sanish.
Yeah. I think Dr. Bali was talking about, you could say, the different competency domains. Maybe during that time there was a lot of echo. So maybe I quickly kind of like redo that. So there are 6 competency domains that are being assessed by GCP-PCS. The first domain is that of the protocol. So anything to do with protocol. So whether it is what is the need for actually doing the study, what do you mean? What are the key? You could say the questions that the study is going to answer. What are the endpoints? Objectives which flow into the endpoints. What is the sample size? So everything related to the protocol, including a little bit of pathophysiology, epidemiology, and others which are required in writing a protocol. The second competency domain is knowledge about investigational product development and the regulation. So, for example, what are the GMP regulations with regards to, you could say, manufacturing a drug, right? So even before manufacturing, I think when the discovery happens and formulation development happens, product development happens, and then it moves into manufacturing, shipment. When it reaches the site, the investigator or the study team actually receives the drug. How is the drug stored? How is the drug storage actually taken care? And then, of course, the issuing of the drug as well as then retention and destruction and other things. So everything related to the investigation, product development, and the regulations surrounding it. The third domain or the competency is on the ethical considerations of patient safety and well-being. So which means that all this is the core of the heart of the GCP, right? So informed consent process, audio video recording, especially in India. What are the historical basis for actually having, you could say, safety? So whether it is the World Medical Association, you could say Helsinki guidelines, Hippocratic Oath, whether it is a Belmont report or a Nuremberg trial. So all these are historical basis where things are moved and it has become much better. So that will, you could say, talk also about vulnerable population. What are the guardrails that should be put in for if you're doing studies with vulnerable population, etc. The fourth competency is on clinical study operation. So this is the hard and fast project management activities, right? Like, for example, when you have a study, how do you decide upon which institutions to go? What databases do you look? Before you start a study, when do you actually submit for the regulatory approval? In that regulatory approval form, what are the different elements that should be there? When should you actually apply on CTRI? And I'm being very specific for India, but it can be applicable to global also. And then, of course, when should monitoring be done? When should auditing be done? How do you prepare for inspections, etc.? The fifth competency domain is on study and site management. This is exactly what happens at the site. So, for example, who can be a PI? What are the responsibilities of a clinical research coordinator? How do you maintain the investigator site file? How do you actually take care of the drug? How do you destroy it, or all those things? And of course, all the other source notes related stuff, etc. And the last one is on data management and informatics, which means when does a statistician actually get involved? What do you mean by statistical analysis plan? What are the different elements in that? How does the data flow in a clinical trial, right? How do you actually have edit checks? How do you actually raise data queries? How do you close data queries? And then, of course, stats programming, a little bit about stats programming, and of course, all that. So while not everyone needs to have advanced level knowledge for all these things, somebody who is going to be certified at a basic level for GCP-PCS should have at least the basic knowledge about different elements in this competency. So thank you once again. Are there any other questions?
Yes, so there are questions in the comment box. Just a minute.
How can we integrate this training or certification in UG, PG programs as selective courses? Yeah. So let me for a moment say that this is a certification program, right? I mean, we are not trying to kind of like say that this has to have, you could say, involvement of the NMC and others, because we are not yet there. We are starting this out as a voluntary program. If a significant critical mass of individuals get trained, then it is going to be, of course, very clear that even NMC or ICMR and others will actually use that. But thank you for that idea as to how we can actually do that. Do you feel GCP also should look into justification of the study design? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the protocol part has the rationale for the study being described, right? And as a GCP trained professional, that is one of the key things, whether you are a CRA, whether you are a site coordinator, whether you are an investigator, research nurse, etc. The most important thing is that why is this study being done? Because if there is no rationale for doing a study, then you need to really question yourself, right? Even for a BA/BE study, there is a rationale, right? It's not as if this is just a study being done in healthy volunteers for meeting a particular requirement. There is a rationale, right? And that rationale can be sometimes be just to kind of like make available another form of a drug or another formulation of the drug. You might ask that there are already 10 such drugs that are available in generic version, but maybe the 11th drug will also enable some more patients to take that drug with a lower cost, etc. So that has to be known for everyone who is trained in GCP. At clinical trial by CTRA, IT should include GCP training. Yeah, thank you for that suggestion. That's a good one. Right now, if it is a regulatory trial, and I'm sure this is also true for DHR registered trials, there is a requirement that the investigator has to be GCP trained. Now, currently, I think many people actually they just go to the NIDA website or the city training program, and overnight they get a certification which is there. But I personally don't think that actually has any value as a researcher, right, or a GCP trained professional, because many time people actually don't even go through this thing; they just finish the course, right? So it's a good point that within CTRI, is there any way to actually ensure that GCP training can be included? Is there any possibility to get the PPT? Leave it to Sujeta and Sonia to answer that.
PPTs, like we can share, but YouTube recordings are already there for all the 7 webinars we had.
Yeah.
So you can listen to the recordings. If you really think there's something you need to ask, you can write to me and Dr. Sucheta. Yes, I'll share the email here.
Dr. Ashutosh or Mr. Ashutosh has a question for any new formulation. Is there any requirement approval from CDSCO? Yeah, so there is, because it falls into a new drug category. So obviously, if the formulation changes from that of the approved drug, then obviously it has to go to CDSCO or a health authority for approval. Dr. Balu writes, what do you mean by advanced protocol? So probably what I said was misinterpreted. So what we are saying is that this particular minimum standard of competence actually gives you a certification which is called as GCP certified basic. Now, advanced means that people would have, you could say, much more than basic understanding and knowledge about certain elements or competencies of GCP. Like, for example, an investigator who's a medical professional might have very good or excellent knowledge about protocol, which might be over and above that of a basic requirement. So that is called as advanced knowledge. Yep, I think that's it. Let me not derail the agenda for today. Over to you, Sonia.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for the wonderful session and so many inquiries being answered. You can still write to us as soon as possible around. Now, I think we should not waste because it is already late. We are already late by 8 minutes for Dr. Devjani's session. Ma'am, she's there. Let me ask her if she wants me to share the presentation. Ma'am, should I share the presentation?
Yeah, please, because I can't join through the laptop. So there will be a little bit of a disconnect. I seek excuse from the audience here, but somewhere there's a technical glitch and we couldn't overcome that. So I'm on my phone and Sonia would be doing the projections.
Okay, just give me a minute.
Yeah.
If you can see, just let me know. No. This is Dr. Sucheta's presentation. Just a minute.
Yeah, sure.
This is yours. So I think we are visible.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm unmuting myself and.
Sure. Okay, so good afternoon and good day to all the audience here. And I first of all would like to apologize. There's some disconnect. My laptop is just not behaving well. Tried with the connectivity at THSI, that also failed. So Sonia would do the projections and I would like to thank Sonia for that. And I would be talking. My previous speakers have already given the overview, so the audience would have had a good idea of what this present scheme is about. And Dr. Sanish just gave a beautiful minimum standard of competence that is required for this certification scheme. And for me, what I would do is I will talk about how the process of the GCP professionals is for their certification. So this is what I would be talking about. So we go on to the next slide. Sonia, would you just change the slide, please? Yeah. This is just a general disclaimer. All the PPTs, we have that. So we'll just move on to the next one, please. And as we were doing right through, we will keep the question and answers during the next session, and we can go through it. So I straight away come to, this is the scheme that I'm going to talk about. That is the Good Clinical Professional Practice Certification Scheme, and the overview was already given. I will probably repeat a few of the points which was already talked about, but it is essential so that we can link the presentations. Hope I'm audible and there's no other disturbance here. So thank you. So now I would just like to talk that what is the international scenario, what is happening in the world regarding these sort of certification schemes, and what are the basic fundamentals that are being followed. So what I can say is globally, there is an increasing use of standards for various things, like standards for any products, say for even an electrical bulb, it has to be produced or it has to be manufactured or come to the market. It follows a standard. There is a service sector. We know about the service sector, the health sector, for example. Then there are very processes and systems. Like now we have the management systems that we talk about, healthcare management system, the medical device system. Now we are also there, people are getting engaged in a sort of artificial intelligence, the information security system. So all these things are following, all the different sectors or domains are following specific international standards. And these standards are for either, we have just said that they can be mandatory, Dr. Sanish was talking about it, or they can be voluntary. So there are distinct regimes. One is absolutely essential, the government gives the mandate, or else for particularly for this scheme, it's a voluntary scheme. It is very beneficial, but people have to come forward on their own voluntarily to get themselves certified as GCP professionals. Then there is a need, and how is it done? The requirements of this scheme is basically, there are certain requirements which are written down, and that is what the scheme document for the GCP certification process writes down what are the requirements of the schemes, what are the prerequisites, and how the assessments are to be done for the GCP professionals. That assessments means they will check, the assessors will check whether the people who have come voluntarily to get themselves certified as GCP professionals, whether they have the prerequisites, and they confirm to what is essential, what are the requirements, and then it can be done. For us here presently, for this scheme, we will take the route of certification. But as I said, there are other products, services, and other things where the route of inspection and testing is also utilized for the conformity assessment. But in our case, for this particular certification program, we use assessment leaders too. Certifications actually helps us to gain confidence for the process that is being followed, and also gain confidence that the professional who is being certified has got the competence to do what he is supposed to do, what is required to do. Therefore, this entire scheme leads to the whole end product is by certifying the GCP professionals, and as a result, with the professionals, although they would have a degree, earlier degree, whether they're doctors or whatever they are, but if they undergo the process of certification, since this is a standard which we are forces, therefore these professionals, once they're certified, people, the end users, they are confident of their competence internationally, so they gain the internationals for that. And this international acceptance, what it means, the word facilitating trade is, say suppose somebody is getting certified here in this country in India, and they have a certificate showing their competence, and they travel to some other country, and if they show the certificate of this certification of the competence, they will be accepted. That would be, which means they are internationally accepted, and people will have the confidence that they have gone through this process and they have the competence to do what is required. And this is accomplished through accreditation. That means here in the overview, or earlier I had missed out because my laptop was giving problem, but we have a personal certification body, that is Northeastern Christian University, who have been approved by THSTI, and therefore THSTI does not do the certification directly, but they have approved this personal certification body, which is the Northeastern Christian University. They have been recognized, accredited, and they would be doing the certification process. So therefore, it is an entire change. The certification is done by accredited certification body, and this accredited certification body is under the oversight of THSTI, who is the scheme owner or who have designed the scheme. Can we go to the next slide, please, Sonia? Next slide, please.
Ma'am, we have moved to the next slide. Please check, please check.
No, it is not on here. It is not here. Somewhere there's a connectivity issue. I find there's a lot of lag. Can the audience see the next slide? Because I still see the international scenario heading.
Ma'am, please check, please check.
Yeah, just a minute, because there's a lot of lag here. Okay. I think we go to the earlier one, personal certification. Yes, this is the next one. So now what is Dr. Sucheta would have earlier introduced to you. I had introduced one more slide here, but somehow I'm not on my laptop, so I'm just talking about it. That the Northeastern Christian University is certifying the people for their personal certification, and therefore this particular personal certification, which is done by the certification body, it shows that the basic crux of this international standard, which is for personal certification, and the standard is known as ISO 17024, which is a standard which describes the requirements for the persons to get certified, and therefore the standard 17024 is known as personal certification standard. And what is the beauty of this standard is, the standard says that they will certify. The standard says that requirement for certification is not based on qualification system, which means even if we have a degree, like we have got MSc degree, BSc degree, or a PhD degree, or whatever the degrees are, or a MBBS degree, but when they come for certification, the personnel who wish to be certified voluntarily, they have to show their competence. And what is the competence? Competence is what is the knowledge and the skill, what sort of knowledge they have and what sort of level of skills they have, and that needs to be demonstrated. So immaterial of what education qualification you have, to get certified you have to show your competence through a mechanism of demonstration. And how it can be done? It can be done through any route. That means it can be first of all, it can be acquired. This knowledge and skill definitely can be acquired through education or training or work experience or self-study. But the evaluation will depend on what is actually fitting for this assessment process. For example, it could be oral, it could be written, it could be practical, it could be observational, or any other method. For example, I'll give you one example. Like for yoga professionals, now we are having a scheme. Today is International Yoga Day, and we have a scheme which was launched way back in 2016. It has gone international. If for certifying the yoga professionals, there are written examinations, but in addition to it, they have to demonstrate the skills. For example, the asanas, what is asked, and what are the basic fitness level of the people. And then only through the written examination, through the oral examination, and through demonstration of their asanas and physical fitness, they get certified. Therefore, this evaluation method to certify will depend what is the most befitting route to certify the people. In case of GCP professionals, here we have only written examinations, and they can also be done online. So that is how we decide, that is how the scheme owners decide what route to be adopted to evaluate and to certify. And once the people get certified, then they are under surveillance, which means that when they get the certificate of their professional certification of competence, they have to sign an agreement, which means they will know what are the do's for them and what are the don'ts for them. And there is a validity period of this certification. It is not a lifetime certification. For example, I am a PhD doctor. I've got a PhD certificate, and that remains with me lifelong. I can flash it anywhere that I'm a PhD doctor by qualification. But in this case, this is a skill-based assessment system where you get certified, and you, as you work as GCP professionals, you can enhance your skills. So if the validity of this certificate is a particular time, and within that time frame when you are working, you are also enhancing your skills, and therefore you also upgrade yourself, and therefore there is a system of surveillance, which means what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do, that you are kept a watch upon. And once the validity period is over, you can come back and get yourself recertified if you feel that this certificate has benefited this. Therefore, it is no longer a one-time process, and it is the emphasis on practicing and maintenance of the competence level. Next slide, please. GCP-PCS, which means Good Clinical Professional Certification Scheme. It follows an international model. I have already introduced to what is the international scenario, and what does that international scenario, it also has a model. What does the model say? That the scheme, and for the scheme, THSTI is the owner of the scheme. THSTI will have the documents, it will maintain, and it will run the whole thing and implement also. And it is a voluntary system, as all of us have been emphasizing before, also the earlier speakers. It owns the standards. That means there is a link and people can read through what is the standard. Standard means besides the ISO 17024, the GCP itself has written down documents which also has its standards, and it is for the certification, and it also has a scheme logo. Now in this slide on the right hand top, you can see GCP-PCS written out. There is a logo underneath that which says scale up and stand out, and even the drawing there's a lot of meaning behind it. So when you read through, it is on the website, you will also know the logo has also very deep meaning to it. So these are the requirements for any scheme, and these are the international models, and this is followed across the world. And the scheme, it has to lay down uniform evaluation and certification process. That means once it has written down, the same process has to be followed across. Now it is presently within the country, and when we go outside the country also, the same system will be followed, and prescribes also the requirements of the personal certification body. I have already told you that right at the moment we have one personal certification body, that is Northeastern Christian University, and this personal certification body in the international norms, it is known as, short form is PRCB, sometimes they write PCBs also. And for these bodies to get THSI, they also have specific requirements, and any other measure to promote certification and seek acceptability in both domestic and international market. And there, thus you can see it is an international, it is following an international system, it is following the international model, it has got acceptability across borders, and it only, a professional only has to show the person's competence, that is skills and knowledge, and that is assessed. And these are all the rules, all the requirements are uniform across cross borders. The next slide, please. So as I was talking, I will just introduce to you a few terms which will be used again and again, as I've already been talking about scheme owners. THSTI is the scheme owner. That means they have written down the documents and they maintain those scheme documents. And there is the certification scheme. And this is where I have already talked. They require the competence. They have described what is required for people, what are the knowledge and skills required for the people to get certified. And just my previous speaker, Dr. Sanish, has said that what is the minimum standard of competence that is required to get certified. Right now we have the basic level and other requirements related to specific occupational or skill categories of person, and therefore there is a link, and you people can go and look up the link in the THSI website. And if you notice, after scheme owner, where I have written organizations responsible for developing and maintaining a certification scheme, within bracket I have put 3.2. What is that? This is actually the clause number in the international standard ISO 17024. So 17024 has different numberings. It has got a specific system of writing, and I have just picked up a few definitions from that scheme which befits to our present GCP certification scheme, and that is the number. Similarly, for certification scheme in the main standard 17024, it is 3.6, and therefore all these terminologies are defined in the standard. Can we go on to the next slide, please? Next is, what is the certification process? Am I right, Sonia?
Yes, ma'am. Certification process, glossary of terms.
Glossary of terms, right. So in the certification scheme, when you read through the documents, you will see what all has been described. That is the scope of certification. That means what is the domain, what are they trying to certify, what is the object of certification. Then there is the job and task description. What is for each person who is involved in this scheme, what is their job and task? What is the job and task description even for people who are getting certified? Then what is the required competence of the people? Then what are the abilities, which is when it is applicable? You can see note 1, abilities include physical capabilities such as vision, hearing, mobility. You have to declare when you fill up your forms if there's anything of that sort, so that a special attention can be provided to if at all needed. And if there are other prerequisites when applicable. And the next note 2, that is code of conduct, that is very, very important, especially in case of GCP professional certification scheme, because you are doing such an important professional task, and therefore you also know better than me, all the audience here, what you're supposed to do, what you're not supposed to do, what is ethical, what is unethical. So all these needs to be followed. The next slide, please. Which actually, the next slide actually continues with the glossary of terms, that is the certification process. I have just talked about it, that you have to, for the certification process, we will go later on in details in the next 6 slides, that how you are supposed to apply and what is the assessment method, what is the decision method, what is recertification, I've already talked about, and use of, so all these things, even logos and marks. I have talked about competence. Now we have 2 categories of people who are always involved in this certification scheme. One is the examiner who conducts and scores the examiners, and one is the invigilator in case the presence of invigilator is needed during the evaluations. But the invigilator is different from examination. Invigilator will only invigilate but does not evaluate the competence of the candidate. The next slide, please. Now the next continues with the certification process terms, and these 3 terms are very important for any certification scheme, which means validity. That means whatever is to be measured during the assessment, that means when you're appearing for an online examination, the examiner will see what is to be measured, and that has been already defined in the documents in the certification scheme, and that will be the same. It is not that something is measured in Delhi and something is not measured outside Delhi. So it is all the same across wherever this scheme is operating. Whoever is the personal certification body conducting the assessments or evaluation for the GCP professionals to get certified. So what is the validity? That is all same. Again, fairness. Fairness means all the candidates who would apply for getting certified will be treated fairly and equally. There is no bias. Similarly, reliability, which means since the document describe what is to be done, how it is to be assessed, how the scoring has to be done, how the decisions are to be made, so therefore it is reliable wherever the assessment or the evaluation process is happening, in spite of having at different places and with different examiners. Everything has been written down in the scheme document, so it cannot be changed or modified. Next slide, please. Next slide actually gives us the steps to be followed during the certification process. One is people who wish to get certified have to apply. Then their competence will be evaluated. The assessment method, how the evaluation will happen, how the question papers will be set, everything has been defined. So there is no change anywhere. The same method will be followed. Decision on certification, even the certificate format has been stipulated. There can be no variations. I have already talked about surveillance. I have talked about recertification. Then suspension and cancellation. Suspensions happens under certain situations if there is a lot of complaints or other queries coming in, and the person certificate can be suspended till an inquiry happens, and if the inquiry happens and nothing is found, it will be again reinstated, or some actions will be taken, suspended, or if there are very serious complaints or appeals or other things happening, unethical practices or malpractices, then the certificate can be subject to cancellation. Next slide, please. So as I said, there is a particular process, and as you know, this process is also described in the scheme document. That means how a person applies, what is the application form, from where it can be downloaded, then how long the PRCB, after receiving the application, will look into it. Is not that PRCB receives your applications and sits for 30 days and then gives a reply. No, everything has been defined. That means 7 days. They have to respond within 7 days of receipt of query, and then they have to be informed. The whole thing has to be completed, the entire application process, and specific days also have been stipulated that within this days they have to complete. And applications found violating the terms and condition of GCP-PCS will not be processed any further and rejected after due notice of 15 days. So nothing happens arbitrarily. This is the beauty and essence of the scheme. Everything has been predefined, pre-written down, and they have to follow the process. Next slide, please. Now I continue with the process of registration of application. Request for certification from ex-applicants. Say suppose somebody had applied and they did not get certified, or somebody had applied and didn't wish to appear for the assessment, and they will, if they want to come back, they have to apply as a fresh applicant. The PRCB, that is the personal certification body, will reject or close all the applications under the following conditions. This is also written down. PRCB cannot do anything unilaterally or whatever they wish. These conditions are also given, and it is written in the scheme documents. Means how long they will need to complete the whole process of application, how early they should fix up the assessment, and what are the requirements, and what are, means if there is any sort of surveillance, any sort of suspension, nothing can be done arbitrarily. So everything has been written down. The next slide, please. Now I come to the next part, a very important part, that is competence assessment. As Dr. Sanish has introduced to us the minimum standard of competence, so any professional, any GCP professional applying for getting assessed and subjecting oneself to the certification process, they should have the competence or the minimum standard of competence in the following 6 domains. I'm not going to deal with it. It has been dealt extensively, Dr. Sanish. The next slide, please. The next slide. Can we go on to the next slide, please, Sonia? Assessment method. So how the assessment method will happen? Assessment is by MCQs, multiple choice questions, for testing the knowledge of the professional, and case study to test skill in 6 domains of competence and for basic level at the moment. We have not introduced advanced level. Dr. Sanish has already explained that. So the assessment will happen based on the 6 domains, and for, as I said, the evaluation depends on what sort of domain we are dealing. Here we would be having multiple choice, online if needed, or even on site. It depends what the PRCB chooses to conduct. Mostly online it would be right at the moment, to test the knowledge and the case study for the skill. There is no negative marking for the basic level assessment, and the overall pass percentage for the successful candidates will be 70%. Next slide, please. Now the scheme also defines, as I said, everything has been predefined. There's nothing left that people can bring in or manipulate. And even if there is any change, it has to go through the various committee, which Dr. Sucheta would have introduced in her overview slide, that there is a technical committee, there is a steering committee. So any change in the scheme happening has to go through all these committees and approved, and the amendment should come. Right now, it has remained what it was before. And here for the assessment team has got 2 examiners. I have already talked who can be the examiners. So there are 2 examiners. And what is the competence of the examiner? The competence of the examiners also is defined. That means they should be either postgraduate degree in medical sciences, nursing, pharmaceuticals, biological sciences, biostatistics, clinical data management, 5 years of work experience in clinical research after receiving the postgraduate degree, GCP trained, the team of personnel, that is examiners and the question paper setters, to have overall collective competence for all 6 domains. So the audience today already knows what are the 6 domains. Therefore, the assessment team comprises of 2 examiners, and the scheme document has already defined what are the examiner's competence needed. So everything has been predefined and written down very clearly. Next slide, please. Now the assessment process. The THSI, who is the scheme owner, as I said, the scheme owner approves the personnel certification bodies to do the evaluations and the certification process. And THSI, since they're scheme owner, they cannot themselves do anything because that will be a severe conflict of interest. Therefore, THSI, based upon the requirements of the PRCB, as I told you in my earlier slides, they also have specific requirements. Only when they meet the requirement and only when they undergo, the PRCBs also undergo a process of assessment by THSI and then they get approved. And therefore the PRCBs, when they start working, functioning for certification, are supposed to inform the applicants who meet the eligibility criteria the dates of assessment at least 15 days prior to the date of assessment. The minimum number of days is also mentioned here. Inform the examiners and the candidate's name well in advance for identification any conflict of interest. This is essential because say somebody is an examiner and that examiner would have taught one of these candidates who are appearing for certification within 1 year or within 18 months. So they have a familiarity level and that is not admissible, and therefore they have, the examiners as well as candidates are informed about who would be examining them, and the examiners are informed who they would be examining, and if there is any conflict of interest they can always write back to the PRCB saying that there is a conflict of interest, and either the examiner can be changed or the candidate can take another exam. So all that is possible. Inform the examination center's name also to the candidates, because the PRCB may be located at some place, but the PRCB may be conducting the examinations elsewhere. So they are supposed to inform well in advance and communicate the examiner's decisions of the assessment to the candidates once the assessment is taken, and maintain an updated register of the applicants, candidates, certified professionals with the scope of certification and the status of certification. What does this mean? Applicant are people who are applying to the PRCB to get certified. Candidates are the people, means say the applicant has applied, but the applicant may not have been inducted into the assessment process due to some sort of requirements which was not fulfilled. But people who have completely fulfilled all the requirements, they appear for the evaluation, they are the candidates. Now, when the candidates appear for the evaluation process, maybe all of them, they don't get certified because of the assessment or the evaluation process. Therefore, there is an applicant category, there is a candidate category, and there is a certified GCP professional category, and all of them, these names along with when they are certified and for what stream they have been certified, everything is updated on the PRCB's website as well as the scheme owner. Here the scheme owner is THSTI's website. So everything is available, everything is in the public domain, and it's a very open process. The next slide, please. Then the decision on certification. The PRCB to decide on certifications by a competent person independent of assessment. See how crystal clear this certification scheme and process is. People who do the examinations, they only give the marks and they submit to the PRCB. But the same examiners are not supposed to take any decisions on who's to be certified, who's not to be certified. The final decision is made by a person independent of the examiners or who have taken part in the assessment. And there is no grant of conditional certificate. The PRCB to inform the candidate if they fail to meet the acceptance criteria for assessment. Fair enough. If they have not gone through that 70% criteria, PRCB will tell them what has happened. The candidate may take another assessment with the same or another PRCB, but would have to declare in the previous performance when they're reapplying. So these are the requirements. The next slide, please. I continue with the decision, few more points for decision on certifications. If a certified GCP professional relocates to a different place, the professional will be required to inform the PRCB of the change of location. Why it is essential? Because as I've said, once people are certified, there is a validity period, and under that validity period, they're under surveillance. And the PRCB is mandated to have some sort of monitoring mechanisms. And in that case, if the certified person relocates, they have to inform. Otherwise, how would surveillance happen? And surveillance is an essential thing to get recertified. The validity of the GCP professional certificate is for 5 years. There it is. After 5 years, if you feel you have been benefited, you can come back for recertification. The successful GCP professionals will have a code of conduct. I have talked about it earlier. In case any transition happens for the standard or the regulatory requirement, right now we don't have any regulatory requirement, but it may come in future. The MSc of GCP would have to align. Fair enough. Dr. Sanish also has spoken on this topic before me. The scheme owner is to inform the approved PRCB about the transition policy, and the time for completing the whole process of transition. That means the whole chain is involved. The scheme owner is involved, the PRCB involved, the certified candidates are involved. Whatever changes are happening, everybody is informed and they are kept in the loop. The next slide, please. And I said everything has been defined. All the documents have been written down, even what the certificate would look like and what details the certificate would have is also written down. And this is not for GCP alone that people have written it. The standard 17024 actually specifies this. What would the successful professional certificate look like? It will have the following information, that is the name of the certified person and unique identification number, the name of the certification body, a reference to the certification scheme, standard, and the date when it is issued, the scope of certification, and the effective date of certificate and the date of expiry. All the things will be written down on the certificate. The certificate format will be as approved. As I said, everything is approved by the scheme owner. The effective date on a certificate will not be before the date of the certification or recertification decision, which is very fair and which happens always. Nobody can get a certificate before they have actually decided whom to give and whom not to give. Next slide, please. I have spoken extensively about surveillance all through my talk now, and therefore this surveillance would be conducted on the 3rd year of certification. This is the next point, is very important. for the certified GCP professional who has been working constantly in the field of GCP, after being certified, there will be no surveillance assessment because you're already working, and your employers will give a feedback if needed on production of evidence that the professional has been productively employed in the GCP work. But for those who are unable to provide evidence of working in the field of GCP and wish to continue their certified status, they will have to undergo a retest for surveillance, which means the test that they have undergone earlier to get certified, the same test, similar test will be conducted for surveillance as well. But people who are working in GCP, they need not, but some sort of certificate or some sort of evidence should be there from the employer to show that the GCP certified GCP professional has been working satisfactorily. The next slide, please. And then comes the renewal of the certificate. Naturally, it will happen after 5 years. The recertification will be through the same process as the initial certification process. The PRCB will send a renewal notice at least 6 months before the expiry of the certificate's validity period. Here again, it is important. If a certified GCP professional relocates, they have to intimate the PRCB. Otherwise, where would they send the intimation for renewal? The certified GCP professional will apply for renewal in a prescribed format at least 4 months prior to the expiry of validity. So 6 months before the expiry, the PRCB writes, and 4 months before the period of expiry, the people have to apply if they wish to be recertified. The PRCB will review the performance of the certified GCP professional seeking recertification and whether they have complied to all the criteria during the entire certification cycle. There's no adverse comment for their work ethics or otherwise there has been whether there are any complaints. That will be decided upon depending upon whatever the situation is before the decision of the renewal certificate is made. Next slide, please. And the performance of the certified GCP professional will be reviewed on the basis of, as I said, surveillance is very important. So they will require the PRCB will have the surveillance assessment report, and whatever the if they have found anything in the surveillance assessment, whether that has been complied by the certified professional, whether any suspension of certificate had happened during the earlier validity period, or if there are any complaints. I've talked about it before. Feedback on his professional services to be obtained by the PRCB from the employer wherever the certified professional is employed after getting certified. Feedback reports from the institution, if applicable, to obtain, and any other adverse informations. All these will be first looked into, and then only the decision of recertification will be taken by the personal certification body for the certified professional. Next slide, please. Last comes the suspension of certification. The PRCB will issue instruction to the certified GCP professional for suspension of certification. There again, it is not randomly, but it will be, there will be a due notice of 15 days after giving chance to respond and personal hearing. These are very, very important and very beautiful processes that nobody is unnecessarily harassed. Everything has been defined and everybody is given a chance of personal hearing and even to respond. The surveillance audit shows if there is and if at all suspension happens, under what conditions. That is, the surveillance audit shows unsatisfactory performance or any serious complaint or feedback. But it is not only receiving a complaint and feedback, but an inquiry has to be seen, and whether it has to be found whether it is valid or not valid. If it is not valid, doesn't matter at all. So all this process will be done by the PRCB even before deciding on anything. Any administrative requirement like payment of fees or timely provision of information, any violation of terms and conditions of certification. That means when the certified professional, after the initial assessment, receives their certificate, they have to sign some sort of code of ethics, code of conduct, and therefore it would be seen whether there is no breach in such sort of agreements. So these are the conditions under which the certification can be suspended depending whether it is valid and found true to be. The next slide, please. And then the cancellation of certification. PRCB shall cancel the certificate when the certified GCP professional contravenes the terms and condition of certification. I've already told this. Any corrective actions taken which are not complied to or proposed plan of corrective actions will be a considerable time of 3 months. It is not something has been found and they've been given n number of days, but the days has been defined as 3 months. Any administrative requirements like payment of fees or timely provision and information. The PRCB will cancel the certificate at the request of the GCP professional. If the GCP professional feels I don't need the certificate, I've got it, but it is not helping me. So they can always request the PRCB to cancel and the GCP professional will return their certificates. And any suspension or cancellation of certification will be publicly available on the scheme owners and the certification body website. I have already told you all that people who get certified, all the details are web hosted on the personal certification body website and also on the scheme owner website. Similarly, when these sort of events happen, suspension and cancellation, that will also go onto the website and it would be on public display. The next slide, please. And the certificate, there is the certification fee. A fee will be charged for the GCP professional seeking certification without any discrimination. The fee also is publicly accessible on the CDHA, TSTI and the approved PRCB's website. The PRCB will notify and obtain consent to its fee structure from the candidates before granting certification. As and when the fee changes, the same will be communicated to all, including applicants. If they receive any complaints and appeals, I have said that complaints can come from any stakeholder, but appeals can only happens again any particular decision taken by the PRCBs. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for all this gaps between the projections and talking. So I hope you have understood. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. I think we have a substantial amount of questions for today. If there is still any question, please ask us. You can write in the comment box. Also, you can join. Also, you can join from the video itself. Yeah, NICU website is under the construction. As NICU has already replied to you, you can write to their email IDs prcppr006@nicu.ac.in. So I think we should wind up for the day. Jory sir, I request Jory ji.
If there are any questions, let's see if there are any questions.
So there's one question: how we can get GCP training?
It looks like that until you get some training institutions accredited by you, you should undertake training, I guess.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
If there is a demand and it's not being met with, and we are not having other training institutions in place.
Yes, sir.
So let him express right to you, and let's see how we can handle this.
Yes, yes, yes. Mr. Ashutosh, please write to us that you want GCP training from our end. We will discuss with our team whether we can, till the time we don't have any TI with us, can we do it like our own? Please unmute. Please unmute.
Let him speak up, yes. Mr. Ashutosh, why don't you speak up on the micro? Eligible for what?
Yeah, hi. Hi, am I audible?
Please. Yeah, audible now. Audible.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Please tell me.
My name is Dr. Ashutosh. I would like to know that I am interested for GCP training.
Yeah.
So,
You will be
yeah,
definitely
so,
eligible. I saw your
um,
details.
yes, I have lots of experience, means more than 10 years experience in core clinical research.
Yeah.
So I am also industry experience. So I have qualified NIDA
Okay.
GCP training, and also WHO. This is a USA one of the training. So how can get this GCP training from by Indian?
So if there are any, we are now working with various GCP PCS related personnel, and we are working with a few of the training institutions who are also who wanted to become a training institutions for us now. So if we are having those in panel, we'll put them in our website. You can meet them. Otherwise, you can take GCP training from any organizations you feel, and always have to come to the PRCB. That's the last
PRCB.
stop.
Yes.
Last
Yes.
stop.
Yes.
Tell me, Sucheta, if he says he's already through NIDA,
Yeah.
is it not possible for him to straight away go to NECU and get certified? He would have enough knowledge.
No. Like Dr. Sanish told me, there is the NIDA certificate actually has some preset questions and is based on US requirements. NIDA
Yes.
doesn't cover the ICMR's National Ethical Guidelines 2017.
Indian GCP
It doesn't
also.
cover the Indian GCP 2001. It doesn't cover the NDCT rules 2019. So NIDA certificate, when we see in the NABH assessment and WHO Sitkar, I always feel that they just have to go online and get a certificate. That
Yeah.
happens.
In our system, we have designed a training duration also, training module and duration. What was that? 2 day, 3 day? What was that?
So
That was
2 days.
that
Yeah.
was 2 days. 2 days for the basic and 5 days for the advanced.
Sir, we can do
So
like we have 3 inquiries here, like from Ashutosh, Dr.
So
Atul,
tell me,
Rinki Chaudhary
I'm
is there.
making a
Yeah.
proposition to you, Sujeta. If we do,
Hmm.
if we decide, okay,
my question is that in Indian we are having a lots of clinical trials. Is there any there is not certified platform where we can get GCP training, because there's a lots of trial is going on and we have a lots of clinical research industry. CROs are there, SOMOs are there. Why means we are not having such kind of a platform we can get this kind of training? So yeah, we can train the people. Yeah, we can get the training. So that is a, I think, a lacuna kind of things.
I totally agree with you, sir. That's why we are very open to work with many of the institutes who feel that they're comfortable in being a training institute to train. It is not only that the GCP they have to train; they also have to train minimum standard of competence, which will make people pass through it. I can just give you a corollary to that: is that we give 12th exam, but the NEET syllabus is different. So for 12th studies, you do study physics, chemistry, and biology, but for the NEET you need to have a different kind of preparations. So doing the GCP from any institute or our working will be the 12th standard exam from whichever board it is, and giving the NEET exam is exactly like how the competency assessment based for the GCP requirements. So we are working with few of the people. If you or anybody aspires to become the training institutes, because it's a very nascent stage, we would like to handhold the organizations and work with them.
Okay.
Yes, Dr. Atul Vashisht, anybody who is working in any field which is related to clinical research, aspires to work in this area, already working in this area, can feel free to write to Sonia, can directly write to Dr. Shalom. If you are ready, please write to Dr. Shalom. If you are semi-ready, please write to Dr. Sonia. Whatever help you require, you have query in mind, please write to Dr. Sonia. And we assure you that Sonia was very prompt, so we'll assure you that you will get the answer surely from our end about finding a way to help you out.
Yeah, I just wrote my email there, and please write to us. Even if you have inquiry regarding the training you want, please write to us because we are also maintaining a database. Because Niku and we have decided if we have a set of 25 people, we can directly go with the examination. So I'm trying to make a database out of it. Like today, we have inquiry from Dr. Ashutosh, Dr. Atul, and Ms. Rinki. I request all the three to write to me regarding the certification also the training part, so that we can work it out. We will look after we will look
Admin
out the
issues.
ways. Yes, admin issues.
And because of this participation, I think we were able to drastically reduce the cost of certifications. And
Exactly.
if there are more takers, then even NECU has to work on that, because
Exactly.
anybody organization like us is not for profit, but certainly we are not for loss, right? So it has to be at least something which is economically feasible, sustainable. So if there are more number of people, we'll be able to work it out.
Exactly. Please
Can I
write to
just
us.
come in with
Yeah, please,
everybody's permission?
Yes.
Just
Yes,
ma'am.
please.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Today, I thought ki Dr. Sanish has given a little bit introduced us to the MSc document, and all the people who are interested, the three people that Dr. Sonia just named, maybe they could have a look at the minimum standard of competence, and they can judge for themselves whether they need a training or they for a certification scheme. So it is better to read through the documents, especially the minimum standard of competence, and then just a self-assessment where people stand.
Exactly. Any other questions? Please
Sounds
ask
like
us.
a very excellent idea, Dr. Devjani. I'll be very happy. Yeah, the recording of the lecture is already there, Dr. Bhargav Purohitji. It is YouTube live and it is recorded. You can access that.
And Dr. Sucheta, it is also, the MSc is also available on the website. So they can download the MSc document from the website and have a self-study and make a self-assessment that how much of it is, because it's a very elaborate MSc document.
Yes,
absolutely.
And anyway, question would come from that only. Yes. So any other questions?
I think we can conclude if there are no more questions. We have already overshot the time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now I request Shri Jori ji, who is the chairperson of steering committee of GCP-PCS, please give us the concluding remarks for the session today.
So good evening, everybody who is still present. I still see about 70 odd people there. So that's good that at best there were 85, 86 people who were there. So a lot of them have stayed back. Thanks for staying on for this long. I hope the structure of the scheme, the contours of the scheme are clear to you, that this is a certification program where you can demonstrate your knowledge of GCP and get certified. There's no eligibility. There's no need for a training, really. If you need training, then you can go for training. But this is based on a competence model. If you feel, like Dr. Devjani just said, you go through the competence standard, and if you feel you know what is written in the competence standard, you can straight away apply NECU and go for certification. So we are hoping that some of you will come forward and get certified. We have seen the feedback regarding training. We'll work something out for training as well, so that there is appropriate training available to you. Please wait to hear from us. With this, I think it's best to conclude this program. Thank you very much. And thanks to all the speakers, all the participants who have been here. And let's hope that this scheme help people get certified for GCP. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Dr. Sucheta. Thank you, Dr. Devjani. Thank you, Dr. Sanish. And special thanks to Dr. Vikas Nidhi, who agreed to give us the welcoming address for the day. And a feedback will be shared to you by Monday. So don't panic, don't worry. And certificates will be given after filling up the feedback form. And just now I received the inquiry from Dr. Ashutosh also. Thank you so much. And I'll get back to you once I'll finish the formalities out of it. So there's no question as such. I think we should wind up.
Thank you so much. Namaskar and Jai Hind.
Thank you
Okay,
so much
bye.
for the
I would like to thank all of you, even the audience
yes,
here.
even the
and
audiences,
thank once
yes.
again.
Yes, the
Yes.
audience makes it possible.
Yes.
Okay, bye.